Unlock your stubborn heart, a devastating morning prayer for renewal at 3 a.m. The clock struck 3, the witching hour, when shadows seem to breathe and the air thickens with secrets. Inside a dimly lit room, Sarah felt her heart pound against her ribs like a frantic prisoner. She sat on the edge of her bed, sheets twisted around her legs, whispering a prayer that echoed through the silence. The strange part? Each word sent a shiver down her spine, as if the shadows themselves were listening, eager for escape. Outside, the wind howled like a wounded animal, rattling the window. It carried with it a sense of foreboding, a message delivered by the night itself. As she finished her prayer, a flicker of movement caught her eye. A shadow in the corner of her room, but when she turned, nothing was there. Just her breath, shallow and uneven, leaving her with a tight chest and a cold sweat. The air sparked with an electricity that felt almost alive. That morning, Sarah's life was forever changed. Around her, the world seemed to crack open at its seams. She couldn't shake the feeling she was being watched, a constant pressure at the back of her mind. Why did her instincts scream for caution? Why did the hairs on her neck rise at the slightest sound? The tension twisted in her gut, churning, urging her to uncover the truth. Just as she thought she could breathe again, the ground beneath her shifted. A noise, a creak came from the closet. Was it the wind, or a whispered promise of something lurking just out of sight? A lump formed in her throat as she approached it, hesitating. What awaited her behind those doors? Possibility or danger? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With a deep breath, she gripped the doorknob, her fingers icy against the metal. Slowly, she turned it, heart racing like a wild horse trying to escape a barn fire. As it creaked open, a wave of stale air washed over her, and suddenly, she wasn't alone. A small, tattered note fluttered into view at the bottom of her closet, and her heart raced faster. What could it mean? The shadows loomed larger, the silence more deafening. The note beckoned her to read, but what if uncovering its secret opened a door she wasn't ready to walk through? What had she unleashed at 3 a.m.? The questions coiled in her mind like smoke from a dying fire, urgent and suffocating, begging for answers. The note trembled as if it had a pulse of its own, begging for recognition. Sarah crouched low, her brow furrowed, heart pounding. The words scribbled across the page were barely legible, each letter curling like the thin tendrils of smoke winding predictably into the air. Your heart holds the key. Find the truth before the dawn. Her breath caught, the implications of the sentence spiraling into her mind. Find the truth. What truth? She felt a rush of icy air skimming her skin, and her pulse quickened. The shadows wrapped around her, whispering secrets she couldn't comprehend. Clutching the note tightly, she unfolded it further, searching for more clues or perhaps a warning. Nothing. Just those chilling words. She glanced around the dark room, paranoia shadowing her every thought. Could it be a prank? Or was it a real warning? The creaking floorboards beneath her shifted again, drawing her attention back to the closet. Whatever was inside had a presence, a looming weight that made the hairs on her arms stand at attention. A sudden thought sliced through her fear. What if the answer did lay within? What if uncovering it unleashed something far worse than she anticipated? With a shaky breath, she reached into the closet, eyes locked on the abyss beyond. It was then she felt it, a slight tugging on her sleeve. No. Her mind screamed. She jerked her arm back. But it wasn't just a figment of her imagination. Something was reaching out. A high-pitched giggle broke through the strangling silence, echoing against the walls. Her heart slammed against her ribs, and an urgent chill gripped her core. "Who is there?" she called out, trying to sound braver than she felt. The laughter stopped as abruptly as it had started. The air stilled, an eerie silence collapsing around her. She could almost hear her own heart thundering in her ears. Then, the giggle returned, twisting into something more sinister, a mocking sound, spinning tighter around her. It could not be happening. She backed away, the back of her knees hitting against her bed. Fighting the urge to scream, Sarah gripped the note like a lifeline. "Get it together," she whispered. She had to know. With trembling hands, she swept aside more clothes from the closet, needing to see what lay beyond the wall of darkness. A pair of eyes inexplicably reflected in the dim light caught her breath again, a doll. Old, cracked, with a sinister grin that felt almost alive. Inscribed in its porcelain face was a message that made her blood run cold: "I know your secret." What secret? The words blasted into her consciousness, filling her mind with confusion and dread. But the message twisted into urgency. Was this about the prayer? Had she invited something in? Had she unlocked the door to her own heart only to find her deepest fears staring back at her? A low growl emanated from the doll, vibrating through the air, pulling Sarah back. The ground quaked beneath her feet. She had to get out. She stumbled backward, heart racing, the shadows dancing hungrily after her. Her breath quickened. But where would she go? The door to her room slammed shut with a violent thud, echoing through her mind like a final verdict. Your heart holds the key. Her thoughts raced as panic clawed at her. Could she really resolve this before daybreak? The clock on her wall ticked louder now, reminding her that time was slipping away. And then, as if mocking her uncertainty, the low growl transformed into unmistakable laughter, filling the room until she felt she might drown in it. Just then, the ground shifted again. The floor opened up beneath her. What awaited Sarah on the other side? Would the truth finally reveal itself, or would it pull her into the depths of her own worst nightmares? The world tilted as Sarah fell, swallowed by darkness. The sensation felt surreal, like she was drifting through a dream. With each heartbeat, the ground rushed away from her, and a sudden jolt sent her crashing down. The impact knocked the air from her lungs. She gasped, breathing in the dust of the unfamiliar space. Pushing herself upright, she blinked against the dim light. Shadows twisted around her, grabbing at the edges of her vision. When her eyes adjusted, she found herself in a cavernous room, cold stone walls weaving endlessly into the dark. A flickering torch hung on the wall, casting jittery shadows, and illuminating a tiny glint that captured her attention. Ahead, she spotted another note, glimmering oddly amid the rubble. Hesitating, she still felt the push of urgency. Fear tugged her stomach tight, but she couldn't let it win. Steeling herself, she moved toward the light. Each step echoed loudly in the silence. Your heart holds the key, whispered the first note in her memory. Could this room be part of the answer? She reached the paper and knelt, uncovering it. The words were scrawled hastily, as if penned by a frightened hand: "Beware what you seek, a heart scarred is a heart that bleeds." Blood rushed to her ears, and she shivered. What had happened to her that could leave her heart so exposed? The implication hung heavy in the air. She shook it off, refusing to dwell on it. Not now. Instead, her focus sharpened as she scanned the room, searching for more clues. As she stood, a strange sensation ricocheted through her bones, a low hum, thrumming faintly beneath her feet. The walls pulsed like a heartbeat, and terror snaked into her mind. Was it the doll's influence weaving itself into her reality? Her pulse quickened, drumming wildly as she searched the cavernous room. Then she saw it, a door at the far end, slightly ajar, light spilling through the crack. Could that be a passage to safety? With every ounce of bravery left in her, she sprinted toward it. But just as she reached for the handle, the door flung open. A figure stood in the doorway, backlit by an ethereal glow. Sarah squinted, trying to make out its features. But it was shrouded in shadows, a moving silhouette that felt familiar and foreign all at once. Sarah, it called, the voice like a soft caress but laced with something darker, a warning, perhaps. Who are you? She croaked, voice trembling. The revelation of recognition flickered in her mind like a dying flame. She couldn't place the voice, but it felt like home. The figure stepped closer, the light wrapping around it, revealing a face. Time suspended as Sarah's blood froze. No. It can't be. A realization crashed over her like a wave. This was someone she thought lost, someone tied to her secret. Find the truth, it urged, a fusion of compassion and desperation echoing from its lips. Before it's too late. Her heart raced. Could she trust this figure? Was the truth here with her, a mere heartbeat away? Tears pricked at her eyes. And then, in an instant, the face contorted, slipping back into shadow, morphing into the doll's sinister, cracked grin. The echoes of laughter filled the chamber again, chilling her to the bone. Your heart holds the key. With the sudden light extinguished, Sarah stood alone in darkness, the pulse of the walls stuttering ominously. A new sense of urgency gripped her. What lay ahead? Would she face her past to unlock the truth, or remain trapped in the shadows of her own making? The silence pressed tightly around her, as if the cavern itself held its breath. She had to decide. Which part of her heart would she unlock next? The darkness pressed down on her like a heavy shroud, the silence pulsating with unspoken secrets. Sarah could feel her heart thrumming against her ribs, each beat echoing in her ears, a desperate reminder of her very existence. Don't think about it, she whispered to herself, sinking down to the cold ground, wrapping her arms around her knees. Shadows darted at the edges of her vision, mocking her fear. She swayed slightly, willing her mind to settle. Just then, the low hum beneath her feet intensified, vibrating through the floor and into her bones. It was an unsettling lullaby, luring her closer. Tentatively, she laid her palm against the stone, feeling for the source. Cold and indifferent, the wall seemed to shudder under her touch. She sucked in a breath, flaring her nostrils, trying to smell something familiar, anything that could tether her to reality. But all she could catch was the musty scent of damp earth and a trace of metal, a tang of iron that felt wrong, like blood. Images flashed in her mind, herself as a child, leaning over a worn diary, struggling to label emotions she couldn't name. Her mother's laughter bounced off the walls of her memory, but it twisted into something darker, like a shadow chasing her down a corridor. Find the truth, a chant echoed faintly, mingled with her breath. She needed to move. The door. Whatever waited beyond that threshold held her answers, but first, she had to dispel the specters lurking in her mind. Gathering her courage, she pushed to her feet and made her way toward the door, each step a battle against the rising tide of anxiety. The thin beam of light from the ajar door called to her like a moth to a flame, and she felt the familiar pull, strong and unyielding. As she reached for the handle, it hissed open wider, the light spilling out and bathing her in warmth, dispelling some of the chill that clung to her skin. Sarah, the voice emerged again, this time sharper, more defined. It was indeed familiar. Relief flooded through her briefly, yet an unease lurked beneath. Who? She asked again, bracing herself. The figure stepped into the light, and her heart skipped. A woman, her mother, in spectral form. The resemblance was undeniable, yet this image flickered. Her mother's fingertips seemed to trail ghostly sparks of luminescence, flickering like dying embers. Sarah, you've come so far. You need to finish what was started. Her mother's eyes shimmered with urgency, flickers of sadness reflected in the fleeting light. I don't understand. Why are you here? What does it mean? Panic clawed at Sarah's throat. She wasn't ready. The truths hidden in her heart felt too heavy, too dangerous. Your heart knows. The words floated through the air like a gentle breeze, stirring the echo of painful memories. You must confront the darkness that binds you. And in that moment, an overwhelming sense of dread settled in the pit of Sarah's stomach. The shadows behind her mother churned, restless, as if waiting for their turn to rise. Trust yourself. The figure urged, and just like that, the apparition flickered violently, dissolving into the chilling air before her. The room trembled as the shadows swirled. Terror clawed inside her. Was this the truth she sought? The words echoed off the cavern walls, seemingly mocking her. Sarah, you need to unlock your heart suddenly. A sharp pang radiated through her chest, forcing her to grasp at her heart, and then she just knew. The heartbeat of the cavern surged in response, guiding her, but before she could reconcile this, the walls around her began shifting, the cavern morphing like a living entity. This was no simple escape, it was a challenge, a maze designed to test her resolve. Would she confront her fears head-on to unlock her heart, or would she allow the shadows to envelop her, swallowing her whole in the process? Nerves prickled her skin as she took a step forward. The truth awaited, ready to consume her. But was she ready? Each heartbeat echoed with the urgency of her next move, and it was time to decide. The maze twisted and turned, the stones beneath her feet shifting like a restless tide. Each step felt like a gamble, an echo of past fears pressing against her. A low growl reverberated through the passage, causing her to freeze. Shadows flickered and pooled, forming dark figures that crawled closer, whispering her name in a chilling chorus. Sarah. Sarah. Face us. The voices seeped into her ears like poison. Terrified, she squeezed her eyes shut, desperate for the visions to fade. But they only grew louder, more insistent. She stumbled backward and felt the cold wall crash against her spine, the vibrations of the cavern amplifying her dread. Eyes wide, she glanced over her shoulder, realizing the walls were lined with mirrors, fractured reflections of her own face. Each one captured a different version of herself, the innocent child, the defiant teenager, the lost adult. They stared back, their expressions haunting yet pleading. Face the truth, the reflections murmured, their voices melding into one. You cannot escape. The air thickened, wrapping around her throat like a vice. The pulse of the cavern steadied, enhancing the rhythm of her heart that thudded like a drum, drowning out the din of the shadows. She was being pulled deeper, the darkness a seductive blanket that wanted to smother her. Is this who you want to be? Her own voice rang out, strange and familiar. It broke through the darkness like a beacon, piercing through the fear that wrapped around her. To know who you are, you must confront what you fear. With a sudden surge of adrenaline, Sarah straightened, pushing against the aching sense of dread. Fear won't hold me back, she shouted, more to herself than the shadows. The shadows lurched, momentarily retreating, as if the very act of her defiance had cast a spell, halting their advance. The mirrors shimmered, reflecting the wavering light that beckoned her toward the unknown. Unlock your heart. It was her mother's voice again, softer now, laced with warmth. But there was a challenge wrapped within it, a faint pulsing light emerging through the fractured images. Sarah reached out, touching the mirror nearest to her. The glass rippled, sending shockwaves through her fingertips. A rush of memories poured forth, each one more painful than the last. The arguments, the betrayals, every moment she tried to bury beneath layers of denial. It felt like a flood she couldn't control, but within the chaos, a glimmer of hope emerged. Her heart raced, not just from fear, but from the realization that perhaps all these experiences, both painful and precious, were part of the key. She took a deep breath, focusing on her mother's voice, remembering the love that had once filled their home. What do I have to do? She whispered, desperation spilling into her tone. Remember, the reflections replied, their collective expression softening. Face the darkness you've cast aside. Embrace it. Only then will you see the truth. The shadows roared back to life, an onslaught of whispers crashing against her like rough waves. In that moment, she felt the weight of her past, the doubts and the fear, tangled within her spirit. But she also felt something else, the weight of her own courage pushing through. Sarah squared her shoulders, feeling warmth blooming in her chest, igniting a fire she thought long extinguished. I will not let you win. She exclaimed, her voice steady and resolute. With the force of her realization, she surged forward, ready to confront whatever lay ahead in the darkness. She could hear the shadows screeching, the air growing heavier as she forced her way deeper. As the light ahead flickered like a distant star, she knew she was close. But would confronting the darkness resolve her tangled heart, or was it a chasm, ready to swallow her whole? The cavern began to pulse rhythmically, as if breathing with anticipation. Each echo leading her toward the ultimate confrontation, toward secrets long buried. What awaited her was still shrouded in darkness, pulling her forward while the shadows howled at her back. Would she find redemption or unravel further into despair? The truth was about to reveal itself, but would she be ready to embrace it? The air vibrated as Sarah stumbled forward, the pulsating light ahead growing stronger, almost tangible. Her heart pounded, leaving her breathless. Shadows clawed at her heels, eager to drag her back into the abyss she had crawled from. "Stay strong," she whispered to herself, feeling the weight of her words. With each step, the light illuminated more of the cavern. It flickered, casting elongated shadows that danced across the walls like sinister phantoms. She focused on the bright spot, driving herself to reach it. But with each move, the whispers crescendoed, forming a storm of voices swirling in her mind, each one clawing for her attention. "You are nothing. You are broken. You will fail. Shut up," Sarah shouted, heart racing. It felt good to raise her voice against the noise. The shadows recoiled slightly, as if chastised. It became a game of wits, a battle of will against the voices that constantly echoed her darkest thoughts, her most significant failures, and insecurities. The closer she got, the more the light revealed a silhouette hovering, inviting, awash in ethereal glow. Was it hope, or a trap meant to ensnare her? Each inch forward felt like a stretch toward salvation or a plunge into despair. She could feel the stones beneath her feet pulse in time with the cavernous rhythms, like a giant heart thrumming beneath her. Memory is a double-edged sword, a familiar voice quivered from the shadows. Sarah turned rapidly, squinting into the encroaching darkness as her breath hitched in her throat. "Who is there?" she demanded, courage wrapping around her like a shield. One of the shadows stepped into the light, revealing a woman, a mirror image of her mother, yet distorted, caught between love and betrayal. Sarah's heart lurched, a mix of yearning and dread blossoming in her chest. "Mom." The word slithered from her lips, laced with disbelief. "It's time to remember, sweet girl. Face what you've shut away." The cavern trembled at her words, the walls vibrating as Sarah reeled back. I can't. It hurts too much." Her mother's mirrored figure melted into streams of reflection, each memory she had tried to bury now bubbling to the surface. Recollections of laughter that turned to tears, and conversations that ended in silence. Each flicker of light revealed moments tangled in regret, betrayal, and shadows of love she feared confronting. "Do you want your truth, Sarah?" The voice echoed, layered with warmth and pain. "You can't keep running away. You are more than your mistakes. I know." She cried out, her voice a plea. "But how can I face it? It's unbearable." The figure flickered, wavering like a flame in the wind, shifting between the mother she missed and the mother who chose to leave. Sarah felt the pull of grief engage her core, a visceral reaction that held her captive in place. Could confronting the pain truly set her free? The lights around them began to spiral violently, shadows converging, engulfing the space with a choking urgency. "You can't escape it, Sarah. You can't hide forever. I have to try." She screamed, defiance igniting raw strength within her. In the surging chaos, she took a step forward, then another, pushing through the turbulence of her own doubts. Every nerve in her body screamed in doubt, yet she felt an ember of courage igniting. "I choose truth over despair." Her declaration shot through the air, cleaving the shadows that surrounded her like a tempest. With newfound resolve, she reached out toward the shimmering light, feeling its warmth rub against her palm. What would it show her? Would it bring comfort or reveal more pain? As her fingers touched the radiant sphere, a sharp pain coursed through her. The shadows screamed, merging into a collective wail as fragments of memories flooded back. Suddenly, everything went dark. Sarah. A voice broke through the silence, echoing in her mind, hitting the very core of her existence. Whose voice was it? The mother she missed, or the shadow she feared? Guilt twisted within her, but she pushed for clarity, for understanding. Was this the moment she had been waiting for, the confrontation she had needed? The darkness swirled, alive with anticipation. The truth loomed like the calm before a storm. Would she emerge transformed, or would the darkness consume her whole? What would she discover when the shadows fell away? What awaited her on the other side of confrontation? The silence was deafening, wrapping around Sarah like a heavy blanket. She struggled to breathe, the weight of the void pressing against her chest. Memories flooded her mind, images of laughter, tears, and a love she lost. In the dark, she felt the edges of her soul fray like an old tapestry. Face it, the voice urged again, fierce and unwavering. Face it, Sarah. She didn't know if it was her mother or the shadows whispering her name. It didn't matter anymore. She was drowning, suffocating in her own chaos. Panic surged, and she fought against it, clawing at the darkness as if it had substance, something she could grasp. "Where are you?" She called out, her voice a thin wisp of hope. "Show me the light." With each heartbeat, the darkness pulsated alive, aware. And then, just as suddenly, it fractured. A crack of brilliant light sliced through, illuminating the void around her. For a fleeting second, she felt warmth spreading, igniting her frozen heart. But the shadows screeched, clinging stubbornly, their claws piercing. "Your past is a prison." They roared, their voices a cacophony of despair. "You belong here." "No." Sarah screamed, each word a desperate push against the tide. "I refuse. I'm more than my pain." The crack widened, revealing a figure, her mother, radiant yet shrouded in a halo of flickering uncertainty. "You must remember the truth," her mother said softly, extending her hand. "It's the only way to escape this darkness." Trembling, Sarah took a step, then another, each movement a ripple of fear and longing. "But what is the truth? What if I can't bear it?" The shadows hissed around her, echoing her fears. "Only the truth can set you free." Her mother's voice was insistent, the warmth inviting yet laced with urgency. Sarah hesitated, her heart pounding like a war drum. Could she really confront what lay beyond, a light, a past filled with abandonment and regret? The shadows surged again, swirling faster, yearning to pull her back into the abyss. "Let go." The voice trembled with insistence. "Let go of the denial. It will hurt, but it's the only path to healing." Taking a deep breath, Sarah focused on her mother's eyes, the depth of love swirling within them. Slowly, she moved closer, reaching for that radiance, surrendering to the fear that clawed at her. The warmth caressed her, infusing her with a flicker of determination. "I'm ready," she whispered, voice cracking under the weight of her truth. With that declaration, the world tilted, shadows recoiling like a tide pulled back from the shore, the light surged, enveloping her completely, each pulse like a heartbeat forging ahead, unearthing buried memories that surged forth like a tidal wave. In each moment, pain and love intermingled, swirling into a kaleidoscope of clarity. Sarah saw her childhood, a house filled with laughter, a mother with open arms, and a father lost in darkness. But there were also arguments, shouts piercing the laughter like arrows, the weight of unfulfilled promises looming large. She felt everything, the joy and the hurt, a heavy tapestry woven with every choice made. Suddenly, a breakthrough, a moment she knew would change everything. A scene played out before her, vivid and raw. Her mother stood, hands poised on the door, a suitcase at her feet. "I have to leave, Sarah," she had said, voice trembling but determined. "You'll be okay." The pain crashed over Sarah, sweeping her under. She was there again, an echo of a child left behind, fearful and confused. "Mom, don't go." The memory screamed into the air, the echoes sparking chaos. "I thought I could protect you." Her mother's spectral visage flickered with anguish. But to stop trying to fix everything is not the same as leaving you. The shadows shrieked, the memories were breaking the spell. In that moment, Sarah knew, acceptance was the key. I forgive you. I forgive me. She cried out. The cavern erupted into light as the shadows pulled away violently, shrieking in fury, ripping at the seams of her past. But as the dazzling brightness engulfed her, Sarah felt another flicker of dread. Was she prepared for what lay beyond? What would happen when the truth finally pushed the darkness aside? What awaited her in the light? Light enveloped Sarah, illuminating the dark recesses of her mind. She felt a sudden rush of clarity, as if a heavy curtain had been torn, allowing the sun to pierce through the haze. Each flicker of warmth washed ashore fragmented memories like waves, rolling over her, revealing parts of herself long hidden. In the brightness, she saw her mother again, this time not as a ghost, but as a beacon of love. Face the truth, darling, her mother whispered, each word a gentle nudge forward. You can reclaim it. You can reclaim yourself. But as Sarah reached toward that radiant figure, fierce shadows clung to her, wrapping around her limbs like serpents. You can't leave us. They hissed, their voices jagged stones. We give you purpose. This is where you belong. No. Sarah's heart thundered. You only hold me back. I'm not afraid anymore. And with that declaration, she pulled against the shadows, feeling the fabric of her truth rip free. The darkness howled in fury, a tempest of despair spiraling around her. It slammed into her like a wall, but Sarah stood firm. Memories surfaced, times of joy intertwined with sorrow, laughter mingled with tears. They clashed like waves in a storm, battling for her attention. Suddenly, a memory surfaced that sliced through the chaos. A moment with her father, laughing as they built a snowman together. She remembered his eyes sparkling, the joy palpable. But in the next instant, it shifted. The same man, drunk and shouting, his love morphing into something twisted and painful. Guilt washed over her. I wanted to help him. I wanted to save us. She cried. The shadows whispered, you see. You were never enough. It was your fault. No. Her voice rang out clear and defiant. I was a child. I did what I could. She felt the tide beginning to turn. Acceptance replaced shame like dawn chasing away darkness. The brilliant light surged brighter, shimmered with promise. Forgiveness is key, her mother urged, standing firm in the radiant glow. Embrace your past, Sarah. It doesn't define you. As the words settled in her heart, she closed her eyes, focusing on that truth. She whispered softly, I forgive my father. I forgive myself. Each word felt like shards of ice melting away, releasing long-held burdens. Just then, a new wave crashed over her, a cacophony of new realizations. Sarah breathed deeply, feeling the transformation take hold as warmth spread throughout her body. Yet beneath that warmth, a chilling realization snaked through her. What if forgiving means I have to forget? What if I lose the memories? Even in the heightened brightness, shadows flickered at the edges, testing her resolve. Forget? They sneered. You'll just be lost again, adrift in a world without pain. Embrace us. No. Sarah shouted back, shaking her head fiercely. I embrace my truth. Her voice resonated, powerful and unwavering, echoing across the vast expanse. The shadows writhed and twisted in agony, collapsing with a final cry. The brightness expanded, engulfing them completely. But just as she felt herself beginning to soar, the light dimmed abruptly. The ground shifted beneath her feet as if the very fabric of her reality was unraveling. A sudden tremor echoed through her core, the ground cracking like ice beneath her. She fought to regain her footing. What is happening? Panic surged as she watched the light flicker precariously. In that moment, the whispers of shadows faded into silence, replaced by something even more unsettling, a low rumble like thunder, growing louder. The truth, it seemed to say, will come at a cost. What price must she pay for the freedom she sought? As the intensity swelled, she braced herself for the unknown. What awaited her in this tempest of revelation? The ground trembled again, a violent quiver that threatened to swallow Sarah whole. Panic surged in her veins. She could feel the weight of the truth pressing down on her heavy, expectant. What was hidden beneath the surface, just beyond the reach of her consciousness? The darkness swirled around her, morphing into shapes that echoed her deepest fears. You can't escape, they taunted, their voices a whispering chorus. Your past is a chain, and you are its prisoner. For an instant, doubt crept in, tangling her thoughts. Was the rebellion she felt a desperate claim to her own heart futile? But then, the memory of her mother's embrace surged forth, warm and unwavering. Sarah focused on that feeling, wrapping it around her like armor. I am not my past, she affirmed, steadying herself against the encroaching void. I am more than their whispers. Just as the shadows lunged towards her, gravity shifted. The ground beneath her crumbled, revealing a chasm layered with memories, some sweet, others scorched with pain. Each one flickered, their edges still raw, flickering like candle flames. Reaching into the chaos, Sarah grasped at a memory of her mother singing lullabies. The sound of her voice, gentle and soothing, built a bridge across the darkness. It ignited a spark in her chest that fluttered like the wings of a bird desperate for freedom. I can't lose this, she whispered. Not again. The ground cracked further, the space around her vibrating with energy that felt both freeing and frightening. Voices from the shadows turned frantic, clawing at her resolve. Don't leave us. We make you whole. Their shrieks echoed, bouncing off the chamber of her mind, yet something inside her sparked a flicker of defiance. Whole. Is this whole? She demanded, as a vision projected ahead of her. It was a vast white room filled with mirrors that reflected her in every possible way, young, old, hurt, healed. Each image unfurled fresh sets of emotions. She saw the little girl hoping for love, the young woman yearning for acceptance. And then she noticed something shocking, an unfamiliar figure lurking in the distance, their features shrouded in mist. Who are you? She called out, her voice steadying despite the chaos around her. The figure shifted, stepping closer, the mist swirling to reveal familiar traits, but altered, darkened, weathered, and fragmented, mirroring the specters that tormented her. Time to face me, Sarah, it said, voice low and resonant, a haunting echo. You've run long enough. And in that instant, the terrifying truth struck her. This was not merely her pain manifesting, but a part of her she had buried deep, the anger, the resentment, the longing for control over her narrative. I don't want to fight, she confessed, shaking in the rawness of vulnerability. Then make peace, or you will remain here forever. The reality around her collapsed, the white room fracturing as darkness clawed to reclaim what she'd released. Sarah's heart raced, panic igniting her limbs. I have the power to change, she shouted, desperation strengthening her voice. What did it mean to be free? Did freedom come with acceptance, or was it the forgiveness she craved? Each pulse of energy sent shocks along her spine, the cost nudged like a secret on her lips, ready to spill. Step forward, the figure beckoned, the atmosphere charged. Face the truth for real. As Sarah steadied herself to step closer, the very fabric of her essence quivered. She felt a choice hanging in the air. Would she have the courage to unveil the last veil of her past? Just then, the walls began to shimmer, colors bleeding into one another, a breathtaking chaos. What lay beyond the threshold of revelation? The question echoed in her mind as she took a deep breath and stepped forward. The moment Sarah crossed that threshold, the world shifted. Light exploded around her, spilling warmth through every corner of her being. She found herself back in the familiar dim light of her room, yet something was undeniably different. The shadows that had once lurked in the corners were now just traces of memories, whispers of what was, but with no power over her. She blinked, a flood of emotion washing over her. The walls, the doll, the echoes of laughter and anger faded like distant thunder. As she stood in the center of her room, she felt lighter, as if a weight had lifted that she had carried for far too long. She was still trembling, but now with the realization that facing her nightmares had granted her a profound freedom she never thought possible, her heart raced as memories flooded back, not just the painful ones, but also those filled with warmth. The laughter of her mother, the playful innocence of childhood, the friends who had stood by her side. Each gentle whisper had guided her to this moment. Your heart holds the key, she had learned, and now she understood what that meant. With newfound courage, Sarah turned to the window. The sun was beginning to rise, bathing her room in soft, golden light. She took a deep breath, savoring the scent of fresh morning air not tainted by lingering fear. It felt like a rebirth, a new chance to embrace both joy and pain as integral parts of herself. As the light flooded her home, she felt the urge to reach out to share this moment. The darkness could no longer confine her. She grabbed her phone, her fingers trembling slightly as she scrolled through her contacts. Each name reminded her of connections she hadn't fully appreciated. Sarah found herself pausing at her best friend's name, Molly. I need to tell her, she thought. I need to show her my strength. With a quick tap, she sent a text. Can we meet? I have something to talk about, something important. Heart racing, Sarah felt a sense of urgency. She needed to reconnect, to share her experience. She didn't want to walk this journey alone anymore. And she knew she would be met with understanding, something she had craved all along. Your heart holds the key, echoed her memories, and as she stood amidst the light, she felt the beautiful weight of acceptance settle in her soul. To truly see herself, her flaws, her strengths, her past, and her potential had granted her the ability to embrace the future without fear. The bell of freedom rang louder in her mind, the clamor of voices now quieted. Each exhale released a piece of her past and welcomed a new horizon filled with possibilities. She stepped back from the window and glanced at the old doll once more, now just a shell of what it once meant to her. You don't own me anymore, she whispered softly, feeling victorious, the grip of her fears dissolving like morning mist. With a final glance back at her reflection in the mirror, Sarah saw strength where once there had been uncertainty. She gave herself a nod, a promise to always seek the truth and practice compassion for her journey. As the world outside blossomed into life, she stepped out of her doorway, ready to embrace not only the dawn but the new chapter awaiting her. Yes, there would be storms and shadows, but she had finally unlocked the door to her heart. And that made her unstoppable. This is where the story ends for now, but a new one begins with you. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss any incredible stories we have waiting for you. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to help us feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Sarah's journey. What did you think of her transformation? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the light together.